Welcome into the latest edition of our Cubs REKAP Podcast, a presentation of our REKAP YouTube channel and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcasts. With Gordon Wittenmeyer, I'm David Kaplan. This one might get a little bit heated.
Don't get me started.
You and your guy, Craig Counsell.
See, I knew where you were going with it.
So let's get started right now off the jump, where the Cubs are sitting at 7-9. They're in last place in the National League Central Division. They just lost a series to the Pittsburgh Pirates at Wrigley this past weekend, and they didn't face Mitch Keller or Paul Skeens. They looked terrible. They did come back and win on Sunday in dramatic fashion after trailing 5-0. And now they're in Philadelphia. They got the ever-living you-know-what beaten out of them on Monday. Christopher Sanchez, he's a stud. They got it to 4-2. And your manager, the guy you love, Craig Counsell, oh, my God. Assad, by his words after the game.
People who listen to this podcast have heard previous episodes. You do realize that. You can title this one, Revisionist History by David Kaplan.
He doesn't like Counsell either. So
he's fine. He's average.
He's an average manager.
Middle of the pack. He's not top 5 like you have many times tried to tell me he was.
Okay. So I'm watching the game.
Top 3 in this division. He might not be top 4 in this division. He's better than Ollie Marmol.
Oh, thank you. He's better than the guy managing the Pirates.
We don't know that.
Yeah. The guy managing
the guy that just beat your ass.
Okay, for a weekend. Craig has won a bunch of.
The guy that's in first place in the division right now with a better record than anybody in the American League? We don't know because it's his first year.
Well, yeah, as of today, Craig is third best in the division.
He's no better than third best, period, in a division with the 2-time reigning manager of the year and Terry Francona.
That's correct. Terry Francona will be a Hall of Famer.
Correct.
Okay, so let's talk about last night's game because it really, really bothered me. I'm watching the game. My beautiful wife is sitting there watching the game with me. And right off the jump in the first inning, Kyle Schwarber, way up, way out. He goes down to one knee like Rizzo used to do. And golfs one out 410 feet. Okay, 1-0.
It's Kyle Schwarber. It's against the Cubs.
He's a stud. And then they get another run in, I think, the second or the third. It's 3-0. And then here comes Schwarber again with a man on. And this one, he just murders. It's 4-0. Now they go to the top of the fourth inning. Christopher Sanchez is not looking like he's got his elite stuff. He's a hell of a pitcher. And he is command-wise off. He walked a 3 or 4 in the game. Pitch count got elevated.
Haven't gotten to him early.
Correct.
And great pitchers sometimes find their way.
Yeah, they had opportunities. They had the bases loaded. PCA struck out on 3 filthy sliders. Whatever. They get into the fourth. Man on. Dansby Swanson takes Sanchez out. First homer he's allowed so far this season. He rifles one in the right field bleachers. I mean, a rocket. 4-2. You're back in the game. You are back in the game. His pitch counts coming up on 70 in the fourth inning. You're back in the game. Would you bring Javier Assad, who, by Craig's words in the postgame at his desk, I watched it on Marquee, Craig said, yeah, Javier just didn't have great breaking stuff tonight. Sinker wasn't where he wanted it, and his command of his fastball command not good, but we'll bring him back out for the fifth. Let me read you, and everybody out there, the $8 million manager, this is what he allowed to happen in the fifth inning of last night's game when you've worked hard, you're facing an ace, and you go right back to 4-2 in the game. Bottom 5. I would not have let him pitch the fifth. I said that before the inning started to my wife. This is first guessing, not second guessing. I'm like, okay, Schwarber's leading off. They're in the heart of their order. Do not let this guy go back out there again. Game 1 of the series, you want to try and find a way to beat their ace. Schwarber walks. Bryce Harper singles, first and second. Adolis Garcia singles to left. Now the bases are loaded with nobody out. Did the manager take him out? Nope. Brandon Marsh doubles to deep left. I mean, a rocket. Garcia to third. Harper and Schwarber score. Now it's 6-2. Okay, you're going to take him out right now, right? Right, Craig? No. Bryson Stott singles to center. Marsh scores. And they throw, comes home. Bad fundamentals, PCA. And now you got a man in scoring position. It's 7-2. Bryson Stott, base hit. Real Muto, base hit. Oh, let's get the guy out now for Jacob Webb, who's not good either. And he gets the last two guys in the inning over. It's 9-2. The game is now out of reach. What he did last night was go, yeah, we're not going to win this one anyway. They're pitching Sanchez. I'm just going to wave the white flag in the fifth. I was sickened by it.
Well, once he brought Assad back and once they got behind by a lot, I got no problem with what happened because you often do this. Good managers often do this during a baseball season. You give up the battle at some point for a better chance at winning the war. We see this with the way that day games after night games and long stretches and things like that. They'll put the so-called B lineup out there. You're getting everybody in. You're getting guys off their feet. Anyway, this is what you do. It's a good question, though, whether you send Assad back out there after you've made it a close game and you've got top of the order up. So fine. What we don't know is everybody who was available in that pen because they've had some serious pitching issues lately with guys going on the IL. And the bullpens they had an extra inning game a couple days earlier. So who was available matters too. And if you don't think you have the guys to get him out, or if you kind of like Assad's stuff maybe, or his command, whatever it is that you see something, I could see that. It was a choice. It didn't work. And you're right to question it. But it still blows my mind that this is a guy who you freaking love. You've called one of the best managers in the game, and now you're going to take this game and decide that he's one of the worst managers in the game.
I haven't said he's like the top guy in the game.
You said he was top 5.
That was when they hired him.
No, that was like a month ago.
No, absolutely not.
No, absolutely
I'm not.
yes.
I'm not Sybil.
Go back and look at the video. You did. I'm the one that said he was middle of the pack. Now you're agreeing with me. So take that, Cap.
He's an average manager. Average.
He is an average manager. I said that almost from the moment he was hired. Definitely from the moment that he matched Rossi's record from the year before with the same team. He's not a difference maker. He's not an impact manager. He's good enough. He's good. He's fine. He knows baseball. He can manage a team. He can communicate. He can manage a bullpen. He can work with a front office. He can handle the media. That's fine. He's nothing special. You're not going to win a championship because you had Craig Counsell. Craig Counsell might not prevent you from losing one, but he's not going to do – like I saw something. I wasn't sure because I'd never covered Terry Francona. Last year, that team got to the playoffs by the skin of their teeth, and they still might not have done it if the Mets hadn't completely folded down the stretch, but he got them to continue to play all year long as there was a mathematical scintilla of a chance, and it paid off at the end. Now there's so much buy-in there. These guys are walking with swagger around. That's the difference that some managers can make, and some of it's intangible. Some of it's just a consistency of messaging and demeanor and the way they treat people. And I'm not saying that Counsell's bad at any of this. I'm just saying he's not. There's nothing there that raises. There's nothing there that's going to fundamentally in a major impactful way increase the sum of the parts into a championship team if it wasn't already going to happen.
Okay, I want to read you something else. We'll move on from the manager. We've made our thoughts known. So Pete Crow-Armstrong has become a hot button topic.
Yeah. For
Cubs fans, Sox fans.
So.
Kevin Durant tweets yesterday, PCA is a must watch. And some people think he's talking about a podcast that he did on Durant's podcast network. Others think he just loves baseball. He is a baseball fan. Durant, that he said PCA is a must watch. Pete Crow-Armstrong is struggling mightily at the plate. Here are his ranks among 149 qualified hitters since August 2nd of 2025. Out of 149, he's hitting 190. That's 147th rank. On-base percentage is 237. That's dead last. And his slug is 283. That's 147th. So he's basically the worst hitter in the sport since last August the 2nd. That's a decent sample size. Yep. That is August, that is September, and that is the first, we'll call it 4 weeks of the season.
You know, what we'll probably find out, and that we can't know for sure right now, is how much the contract plays into that, because I've seen it over the years covering guys, good players, guys who lived up to their contracts in many cases, but who got off to rough starts after they signed big deals, because it gets in your head a little bit. You know, again, even if you're a great player who's going to wind up living up to the contract, a lot of times you get up that slow start because there's something in human nature that makes you think, I now have to do more. And if especially if you're a young player, that can come into play. So we don't know if something like that is happening. One of the issues with this is that because he finished poorly last year, it feels like a continuation of that, and it might be. Again, we won't know that until we get deeper into the season, whether it's one or both. And it is something that I told our loyal listener Robert
Myers.
Yeah, he DM'd me today talking about the offense, and I'll just tell you what I told him. He said this is more or less what he expected of this offense, and I told him I expected more.
Oh, I absolutely expected more.
But I said, maybe here's what I said, and so this is my take on it. Maybe what we'll eventually see is a lineup that streaks and slumps with the fortunes of some of its streakier hitters, because there's a handful of streaky hitters in that lineup. And I said, PCA might be the key, since we still don't know whether he's closer to what he was in the first half or the second half last year, or whether he has a chance to be something more consistent in between. And I said the ballpark doesn't help, because the ballpark has become, instead of a sort of a back and forth hitters, pitcher's park early, hitter's park in the summer. It's more or less a pitcher's park these days. So I mean, that doesn't help, but I think that he is a major storyline for this season. His performance is, and his development, his continued development is.
So let me ask you, this was on the rush hour on Tuesday, the Ankin Law question of the day, 312-6 million for the great Howard Ankin. The question is, are you confident that he will be able to pull the nose up fairly quickly on his offensive struggles, or less than confident?
We saw so much good last year. I mean, with all his struggles over the second half, I mean, this was a 30-30 player. And we know that he's had a tendency, even when he's not been going well, to not take it into the field. And you cannot argue with what he does in the field. He's a plus player.
He's the best defensive center fielder in baseball.
You could absolutely make that case and be right. So I'm not built that way, Cap, kind of like you are. Like, I don't per se have confidence. I'm waiting to see it. I think it's possible. I think it's there. I think we've seen it. I think his emotions can sometimes get in the way. I think we've seen that.
So do you have a problem? Because some fans do. Do you have a problem when he strikes out with men on and tosses his bat down and flings his helmet down and he's frustrated? Or some people say, I like the passion and the fire.
If he does that once in a while, I'm fine with it. He does it too often. That's the problem I have with it. He's got to get that under control. That's part of being a professional. That's what they teach you in A-ball historically in this game. And so if your emotions are getting the better of you to the degree that you're doing that stuff in a very public way on a fairly regular basis, then you're not being, you don't have it enough under control. And it does bother me. It would, if I'm you, Cap, and I want the best for my team and I want my players to perform the best and be the best that they can be, that would bother me. Yes.
Okay. So again, it's very early in the season. Cubs are 7-9. So we played 16 games of 162. That's 10%. A lot of games. Right. 10%. If you use that same barometer, 10% of the Bears season, Michael Cerami, who we had in here last week, tweeted today that it's basically the third quarter of the Lions game when the Bears lost like 52-20. So, and then we know how that all finished. They won a playoff game and nearly got to the NFC title game. So my question to you is,
where they would have lost.
Where they would have beat Seattle.
They would have.
I know, I'm kidding.
Handily.
That's your team. They would have lost. So my question to you is, if you could redo your prediction, what did you say? 90 wins?
Yeah, I was right around that.
And I was 94. If you could redo your prediction, would you say they're not going to go over their expected total of 88.5? They're going under? Or, no, I still believe in this team?
Well, I think we both based it on health. And they haven't had health. I mean, they just lost Cade Horton. If you told me take Cade Horton out of the equation, now how many games do you think they'll win? Yeah, of course, in retrospect, I'm going to say fewer than.
And Matthew Boyd's been on the IL, although he's coming back next week.
Next week, yeah. And, they've lost a couple of relievers along the way, too. And, they'll get guys back. But they haven't performed offensively the way we expected. I think, Bregman's going to be fine. Long term, he's going to put up the numbers that we expect. And PCA might. Suzuki just came back. So, but yeah, for sure. I would pick fewer wins knowing that Cade Horton's not going to be there, because you just went from some of the best starting rotation depth in the league to being more or less right back where you were if you counted on what you got from Cade Horton last year. And so I don't think that's great anymore. It still has a chance to be a playoff team. But, man, I got to tell you, you got two things going against you right now as we sit here right now. You're not playing your best baseball, and you've got a very tough part of the schedule. This is a schedule right here.
Take a look at that.
Yeah, look right there. Look, Philadelphia this week, and then the Mets. The next homestands the Mets and the Phillies. Then they go out to the West Coast to see the Dodgers.
I'll be there.
And the Padres.
I will be at both those.
Oh, you will not be a happy man.
You don't know that.
No, no. Sorry if that's your vacation, because you ain't going to have a good one. That's a tough way to start the season, even if they're fully healthy, and they're not. And they're not playing great baseball right now. But if they can survive that, they've got softer parts in the schedule coming up. The thing that would scare me, if I was you, Cap, is the Pittsburgh freaking Pirates. Because we said this, I said it anyway, on one of our previous podcasts. This is a much improved team, maybe winning record good type of team. And they're even better than I thought they were. If they stay healthy, their pitching's better than I thought it was.
And they haven't even gotten Jones back, who's throwing right now.
Right. They've got the best starting rotation 10% of the way into the season in the National League right now. Number 2 ERA in all of baseball right now in that starting rotation. And we know Skeens is the real deal. We know who Mitch Keller is. Bubba Chandler is one of the best rookies in baseball this year, going in, and he's performing.
How about Ashcraft?
And I haven't even got there. And then you've got Ashcraft, who's performing like crazy. So these guys have real arms. The fact that they're performing this well is not a one-off. This is who they are. And they've got more bats than they've had in years because they went out and got guys and they're performing. And O'Neal Cruz finally looks like he can do what his skill set suggests he can do. And whether that holds up, we'll see. But that's a dynamic skill set. They can do a lot of things. They're in first place right now, and they just served notice to the rest of the division that they're for real. They've played two of the 3 teams we thought were in play for the top of the division this year. Cincinnati and the Cubs, and they beat them both.
They did.
And some of those games weren't close. And so watch out for these guys. I'd be afraid of the Pirates.
So there are people that have been sending me tweets, friends that are Cubs fans sending me texts. Go out and sign Lucas Giolito and then go make a trade for a reliever. Nobody's trading you a top-end reliever right now. They're just not.
Nobody's trading you anything right now.
Correct.
Unless it's Christian Encarnacion Strand who got waived.
Correct. So how do you fix this? Last year, Jed was able to go find Drew Pomeranz, who was a godsend for that bullpen.
You keep looking for depth parts, but you keep working on what you got. So you got Boyd coming back. And he'll be coming back to face, the lefties in that Philly lineup next week at home. If he's rehabbed correctly and he's got one rehab start, he's just going to have one. If he looks good in that and he's done a good job healing, and this thing isn't very serious, well, that's a huge part of having, feeling whole again or feeling as close to whole as you can get. And then you got to figure out how to bridge some of these starters to Palencia. And
that dude's legit.
Yes. And that's something, by the way, to hang your hat on right now, because you have a real closer. You can feel good about the ninth inning. Now you got to get there. It sounds like it's a lot, but this is supposed to be a team that has enough options and enough depth to be able to do that.
Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you, your thoughts on Matt Shaw. He has not played well offensively here, again, through 16 games. And there are a lot of people like, put Suzuki out there, leave Ballesteros right where he is, who's got an 8 whatever OPS. I'm not telling you he's winning the MVP, but he's off to a very good start.
You need to keep your guys that are hitting in the lineup.
Correct. So, Matt Shaw, your thoughts on him?
I still love his versatility, his athleticism, and the fact that he plays multiple positions well. And this is a day and age when everybody's got guys that are super utility guys that can play everywhere. And we saw it when Ian Happ came up. He was a second baseman by trade, but he could play these multiple positions. But until he settled into left field and started really working at it, he didn't play anything particularly well. And that's usually the way it goes with these guys. Matt Shaw actually plays well at these different positions. So I still like that and believe in that. I don't know what kind of hitter he's going to be. He's still young enough that I haven't seen enough to suggest he's, necessarily anything as a hitter in the big leagues. We'll see. The worst case is you've got a really nice utility player who can do some things for you, maybe off the bench or in a platoon role, and that's fine. You got to get your big guns going. You got to figure out a way to get PCA to look like the guy you paid. You gotta get Bregman back on track. Bregman's going to take care of himself. He'll be fine.
Michael Busch. He went 0 for 30.
I don't know what to make it. You're going to have to start matching him up.
They gave him Monday night off against Sanchez. He'll be back in the lineup against Nola tonight.
Yeah, well, hopefully getting a mental blow like that and not having to face a tough lefty will help. But that's a key for you. We know what he can do.
Absolutely huge.
But there's a good chance you should have reason to believe that that's going to come around. He's not going to go from 30 home runs to nothing. He's just not. So he'll find some traction and get his season going. It's still only 10% of the way into the year. It's still April. It's barely mid-April. There's a long way to go here. Some of these guys that we're going to talk about in July, and they're going to be all-stars. So let's not get too concerned about things right now. The problem is the Pirates and what your schedule is right now. And you're already starting from behind.
You're in a tough spot of your schedule.
Yeah.
Gordon, always love being able to vent to you.
I love it when you come back on and you tell me I was right, though. I expect a lot more of that this summer.
You were right about the manager.
Thank you.
I was a little overly optimistic.
Yeah.
Very frustrated with him. That is another edition, a wrap of another edition of our Cubs Recap Podcast, a presentation of our Recap YouTube channel, and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcast. For Gordon Wittenmeyer, our great crew here, I'm David Kaplan. We would love your comments. Craig Counsell, PCA, Matt Shaw, post them right here on our YouTube channel. Have a great rest of your day. Appreciate you greatly. Take that.